I've just finished up a audit for an electrician. Interestingly enough, like, it's not in a dense area of a city, but quite a populated one, and it's a little bit out of a major city, but lots of traffic volume and lots of competition. Now, electrical is definitely one of the hardest spaces from an SEO perspective or a Google Ads perspective. There are a lot of lead gen companies that target plumbers, locksmiths, pest control, finance, medical. You just have these monster like directory sites like HiPages, Airtasker, Bark. You got a whole bunch of these crazy companies popping up, which are side hustles for monster bigger brands, and they're putting in crazy dollars into Google Ads. And what that does, that makes it really, really hard for the little guy to pop up anywhere. So I'm very careful when I kick off a campaign in this space. But today, pulled apart a whole bunch of electrical sites. Once again, I know that space quite well. We're targeting I don't even know if this is part of Melbourne. It's on the outskirts of Melbourne. Same goes for outskirts of Sydney. And unfortunately, we're up against sites the likes of gyms and other big franchises. So what we commonly see, sadly, is huge lead gen companies or big brands that are national, that have office locations in all major cities, lots of suburbs. They've got these monster sites with like 30,000 pages, which is a page for every suburb of Australia. And they're using their high authority of their site to essentially bully and own all of the suburb related terms, because that's how people search for an electrician or a plumber. They search for electrician plus suburb, might be electrician Bondi, electrician Brighton. And so there are those sites. Now, if those sites don't have a Google listing in that location, then our business has a chance, especially if we have a Google listing, an office address that is actually shown. This can work for a home address if you want to show your home address. Not ideal, because Google knows that this is a commercial, it's an office or it's a place of business. They know that it's residential otherwise. So you lose a little bit of weight when you register something to your home address, even if you show the address, right? But better than a service business. As always, I looked at the top websites, and what I do is I grab all of their pages. So I look at the top 20 sites in Sydney, Melbourne. I even go across to Canadian sites and UK sites, because the services in English are more or less the same. There's just sometimes different terminologies for things. Anyway, for each site, I pull all of their SEO pages, means pages they're attempting to rank. I could see that. I can see that they're well optimized for a certain keyword. I remove pages like privacy policies, terms and conditions, and I pay attention to their About Us page as well, or their Teams page. This helps me discover pages that they have a different approach. But what it does when I organize those 30 websites, it helps me understand what kind of pages, how many pages we need to build on our site if we were to build the best site in the space. That also gives me data on their top performing pages. It also gives me data on their top performing keywords, which pages are ranking for what term. So 2 birds, 1 stone. Now I know what pages we need to build, and now I know what keywords have a good intent, right? So I've just got this list of, let's say, 2,000 keywords. I have a look at how many times a month does a specific key term get entered into Google. So I'm able to show the client, hey, Mr. Client, this is the chunk of the pie. Here is who's eating that pie. And then I look at their backlinks. And this is where, in this space, like many other spaces, a lot of SEO activity is actually hidden. Things are removed, crawlers are blocked. Any competitive space, pharmaceuticals, casino, gambling, any competitive space that potentially can bring a lot of money, credit cards, banking, a lot of the SEO activity or law gets hidden. So in other words, for example, let's say I have 800 sites. I can choose to hide those sites from SEO tools like Ahrefs and SEMrush. I can make sure the bots are blocked. I can make sure ChatGPT can't find us. It's just a matter of hiding that robot in your robots.txt. And what I find is, on the surface, this electrical website is ranking first or second or third. It's getting crazy traffic, but then you look under the hood and doesn't have anything special underneath. It means the assets are hidden. And that's why I'm capable of ranking in the space. It's just not a space I enjoy ranking as much, especially if it's in a dense area of the city. Like I wouldn't take on another lawyer, financial advisor, or an accountant in the CBD of Sydney or Melbourne. There's just too much of that going on and too much randomness. So once again, I looked at the competitors. I looked at their pages, their keywords. I looked at their backlinks to understand the cost of entry to market. How long is it going to take me to rank? What kind of backlinks I need to build? In other words, what kind of bricks, what kind of electrical cables I need to buy to connect to the site? What kind of blogs and guides? Now, these days, we've done this crazy loop in the world where the purpose of a blog 10, 20 years ago was to prove to Google that we're trustworthy on a topic. All of a sudden, my blog started to rank really high and I started to dominate quite heavily with them. What Google did and what AI did, they went and grabbed my blogs, everyone else's blogs. If anyone's written anything that is indexed on Google, it basically went into training the natural language models, the AIs, the GPTs, the Geminis. And so what they did, they basically plagiarized. That's exactly what they did. Plagiarized all of the text, all of the guides, all the blogs, all the pages on the websites. And now they're just spitting them out as an AI overview, meaning it's a quick answer. They are crediting where they got the blog from. So I don't know if that's technically plagiarism, but let's just say they didn't ask for my permission to do that. I'm sure it's written in some sort of search console agreement that, hey, when I index my site, it's not actually my site anymore. Anyway, beside the point, we still need to have a thought-provoking and trustworthy content on the topic of whatever you're writing about. In the electrical space, I'd do things like I talk about the tools that an electrician uses, the boots, electrical boots, gloves, other things, how to troubleshoot like a home electrical fault, how to disconnect certain things. So basically giving advice on that particular topic and showing to the Google gods, the AI gods, that you're a trustworthy authority. These days, it's very unlikely that a user that is looking for your services, especially in the electrical space, will land on your website, navigate themselves to blog and read the blog. People are too impatient, too TikTokified to do any of that. But where that's helpful is it proves to Google that you're a trustworthy authority. Now, don't hold me to that. Some people do browse and it just shows proof of trust, right? Hey, wow, look at all these thought-leading pieces of content that they're producing on the topic of electrical maintenance or commercial electrical services or DEETs and you name it. So let me have a look at the pages that I'm deciding to. So based on all the competitors that I found, now we were focusing on a little bit of residential work as well as commercial work, not industrial electrical work. So what have we got? There's going to be a cluster on the website, residential electrician. What have we got? Lighting installations, PowerPoint installations, ceiling fans, smoke alarms, switchboard upgrades, house rewiring, EV chargers, TV mounts, appliance installations, cabling, safety checks, faults finding, heating and cooling, surge protection, USB sockets, hot water. It just keeps going. There's a lot of pages here. Then it moves into the commercial pages and it moves under specialist stuff, which kind of falls into both. And so we've got a 40-page site here that I've basically planned. And then I further planned what keywords should be mentioned in a specific page so we don't have keyword cannibalization by building multiple pages on more or less the same intent of key terms. So this is quite a lot of work that goes into planning something like this out, because where does this stem from? It stems from, one, what people are actually searching, what the client actually does, and then what the top ranking sites that Google has selected are doing. Julio, where's the ball? Are you serious? Get the ball, come on. How does this work? He's just left the ball there. As always, while the goal is to rank as quickly as possible at the top of Google Maps, at the top of Google organic results, it's likely that there's going to be like these 6 or 7 months of marinating and indexing. So the expectation that I set is, hey, 6 or 7 months, I don't expect there to be much positively geared results. So let me fire up a Google ad for you. Let's pick a keyword, a common keyword in this space is local electrician or residential electrician. It just brings a whole bunch of intent, very random intent of what kind of jobs it might be. There was a term that stuck out, which is switchboard upgrades. So it's sensible to attempt to run an ad targeting switchboard upgrades, 10-kilometre radius. Someone types in any term, specific terms to do with upgrading a switchboard, then we can potentially pay for that click and send them to our landing page. And so that's why I love leveraging Google ads during the early phases of SEO. Sometimes they're there permanently, sometimes they're there for 6 months, or sometimes they're there for a year or more until the SEO begins to take off, and then we can essentially use Google ads like a tap, turn it off and turn it on. We also evolve the ad. We might try a new keyword, we might go after commercial electrician, defit electrician, it might be residential, might be local, and each one gets its own little micro budget. We do A/B tests. Look, electrical space, very similar to locksmiths or pest control. Look, if the job is big enough and you win it, then it's obviously highly positively geared. But a lot of the time that, PowerPoint fault or outage, if you're paying $150 a lead, the best thing that you can do there is leave a nice magnet on the fridge and just be that electrician that they think of next time they need an electrician to visit. Now, no matter what the campaign is, it must be supported by some sort of a social presence, some sort of a guide, blog system, thought leading, or at least comments from the owner, director on LinkedIn or other social platforms. These days, traffic diversification is really important for SEO, but it's also important for general brand progression and helping the AI gods consider your business. Because one of the things AI does, it sees how many different mediums your business is being mentioned on, diversification of traffic sources and eyeball sources, impressions. So in a nutshell, this campaign is no different to many of my other local business campaigns, where we want to show up at the top of Google Maps, we want to show up at the top of Google organic results. It will take some time before we build the site, let it marinate and get some trust with Google. So that's why I like to leverage Google ads in this particular space. Other spaces, it might be a mixture of Facebook ads as well. So for example, weddings, music lessons, tutoring, where there is a sensible category to target on Facebook, we will diversify the traffic source. Or when we have some really cool visual stuff to show. So in the construction phase, in the construction space, when the builder presents me with beautiful videos or beautiful photos, we will use those as a Facebook ad, but that will fall under like general brand presence at $5 or $10 a day, especially for retargeting. Anyone that visits the website already means they found us through some sort of a paid channel, organic channel. We may as well just be present on their devices a little bit to help them with the buying process. But in a nutshell, we assessed the competitors, we assessed the keywords, we looked at their backlinks, we checked out the cost of entry to market, and that gave me an understanding of how long it's going to take to rank and how costly. From there, it's just a matter of finding a stable cost per lead with Google Ads, and from there the client can use that as a tap to ramp it up or ramp it down while the SEO begins to take effect. Hope that helps.